ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. So today we will chant up to 8 verses. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam, Bhaj Mudamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrim Karne. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam, Bhaj Mudhamate, Mudhajahi Dhana Gamatrishnaam Kuru Satbuddhim Manasi Vitrishnam Yallabhase Nijakarmo Patam Vittam Tena Vinodaya Chittam Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam, Bhaj Mudhamate, Nari Stana Bharanabhi Desham Drishtva Maga Mohavesham Etanaman Savasa Divikaram Manasi vichintaya varam varam Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam, Bhaj Mudhamate, Nalini Dalagata Jalamati Taralam Tattvajivitamatishaya Chapalam Vyadyapimanagrastam Lokam Shokahatam Cha Samastam Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam, Bhaj Mudhamate, Yavat Vitto Parjana तावत् निज परिवारो रक्तः पश्चाज्जीवति जर देहे वार्तां कोऽपि न पृच्छति गेहे भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते यावत् पवनो निवसति देहे तावत् पृच्छति कुशलं गेहे गतवती वायौ देहापाये भार्या बिभ्यति तस्मिन् काये भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं Govindam Bhaj Moodhamate Balastavat Kridasaktaha Taruda Stavat Tarudi Sakta Vrittastavat Chinta Sakta Parame Brahmaniko Pinasakta Bhaj Govindam Bhaj Govindam Govindam Bhaj Moodhamate Kate Kanta Kaste Putraha Samsaro Yamativa Vichitra Kasya Tvam Kaha Kuta Ayata Tattvam Chintaya Tadiha Brata Bhaj Govindam Bhaj Govindam Govindam Bhaj Moodhamate. So last week we saw verse number 7, which told us how we get attached. Things of attachment, objects of attachment change with time, but that we are attached remains. And we also saw that attachment, our degree of sorrow or unhappiness in life is directly proportional to the degree of attachment in life. So the more attachments we have, the more sorrow and misery comes into our lives. And there is somewhere this equation, particularly for us, who are raised in the Hindu background, we have that attachment equals householder, detachment equals sannyasi. But that is not a fact. So attachment is... So happiness is a state of free mind. And to become happy, we have to reduce the number of attachments in our lives. So what are the attachments we have? Anger, greed, things without which we cannot function in life. And we had also said that there are two types of dependencies, functional and psychological. Functional dependencies, in fact, are liberating because they allow us to do things which we could not have otherwise done. But the psychological dependencies are the ones that are a problem. Now, here in this particular book, he has not given us the ways of overcoming them. But in our study groups at Chinmay Mission, whenever we do these verses, because this has to be a way of life, they give us some techniques that are a great help in overcoming the shortcomings that keep us away from being happy and being free. So in case of attachments, how do we overcome attachments? The first step, as it is in every other thing, is to acknowledge and admit that this, in fact, is an attachment that we have. Our ego will not allow us to accept and admit that, oh, no. These are and it will also tell us this is a functional attachment. For example, if I need my pillow at night and I cannot sleep without my pillow, it will kind of justify. And I'm not saying that we cannot have a functional attachment to pillow, but we have to be very alert and objective in recognizing, because it is that ego which will keep us away from accepting. And if we cannot accept that, we have an attachment, we will never be able to overcome it. So the first thing is to accept and admit what attachments we have in life. So we have to look at ourselves. Having accepted that, we don't need to justify our attachments. You would say it is only natural for a mother to feel for her child. For a mother, it is natural to love her child. And in love, if she has to, give a bitter pill, she will have no problems giving a bitter pill to the child. It does not have to always be something sweet. So we don't need to justify our attachment, and we don't need to give it unnecessary importance as well. Uh, Also, we don't need to disguise these attachments that we have. In giving it importance, or we can say that, given the situation I'm in life, anyone would be stressed. And because I am stressed, that's why I drink so many cups of coffee or smoke so many cigarettes. That is not justify, we don't need to justify that. Now, once we recognize, some of us may have a lot of attachments, and our attachments may be those that make us feel small, and we don't need to do that either. Everyone has attachments, and we should not condemn ourselves for having them. As a matter of fact, we should appreciate that we have recognized our shortcomings and then work on it. In the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, Apichet sudurachara. Even if you are the lowest of the low, even then there is, you can change. And how can you change also? He has given in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Uddharet Atmana Atmanam. So lift yourself by yourself. You don't need anyone else to lift you. And, for us, we are so blessed. We have so many examples in our philosophy, in our literature, that can inspire us. Ratnakar could become Valmiki. He was like a terrorist of today's day and age. So every one of us has a potential saint. That saint has to be manifested. Every sinner has a potential saint, and every saint has a past. So we should not condemn ourselves. No self-condemnation whatsoever. We need to take charge of our lives, start working on ourselves, and the first step towards that is accepting who we are and loving ourselves for who we are. Because with self-acceptance and love, detachment will start coming into our lives. Often people think that, a spiritual life is about how we live with others, what we bring to others. But if there is no love for ourselves, if there is no love within us, how are we going to love anybody else? If we are unhappy, what can we give to others? Unhappiness. So, and that actually will make us stronger. So a weak person has no strength to be detached and take charge of his life. The more we start working on accepting ourselves and loving ourselves, we will feel secure in being who we are, and we will be able to bring about changes. So once we recognize this, we should start dropping the most harmful detachment that we have. Say I'm a smoker. That's the first thing, I become. It is unhealthy habit that I have. I should work on dropping it. There will be so many others, and the ego will make it difficult, but we can work at dropping it. So the best way is to constantly reverse our conditioning. Example again of smoking, it calms my nerves. But if I start looking what is called pratipaksha bhavana, at the other side, this is, a poison. It is killing me slowly. It is harmful to me. Constantly focusing on that, it will reverse my conditioning, and it will make it possible for me to drop it. The other way is to move away from the object of attachment. And we all know about this very well. It is a way of life for us. We have different vratas that we have during the week, and also on special occasions and special days that come. Now, this gives us an opportunity to create a space between our habit and to create a new habit, not a habit, but to create a distance. A habit, good or bad, is an attachment. So if I, if I continue, create that space, that is what will help me change. Now, we are master also, we are given a beautiful technique. The technique is not to go hungry, because the mind will keep going again in the direction of the object of attachment. So they turn the mind and give it a substitute. So they say, you can have falahar, you can eat fruits on that day. Now, our mind plays tricks and we are not even aware of the tricks the mind plays. So it starts actually looking for special foods and getting attached, and then waiting for Ekadashi, waiting for Monday, waiting for that day of fast, because then I can have all those foods that I'm attached to. So that is where, we are given techniques and we have to use those techniques correctly. Another technique is, we are given is taking a pilgrimage. So what do we do when we take a pilgrimage? We go on a pilgrimage, and really, are we focused on that place of attention, of transformation within us? We know which is the best place to get nice hot samosas, nice cup of tea, where we will get a nice paratha. What is, and I'm not saying that we should not do that, but that should not be a distraction that will take us away from the path. One of the Swamis who I was listening to, he said, to the extent we go, now in Delhi, I believe there is a mall that is called Upvasa Mall. In that mall, all the foods that one gets is what one can eat when one is fasting. So this is the point of this, is to make it moving away from that object of attachment should not lead us to another attachment. Very careful in how we substitute. So we have to also, delay gratification is one way. If I'm used to 6 cups of coffee or tea per day, I'm taking them at certain intervals. Say I'm taking a cup of coffee every 4 hours, then I should say, okay, today I will start taking it every 4.5 hours. 5 hours, the mind will go crazy. So just delay it a little bit, which I can handle. And slowly, slowly, I can keep on delaying gratification. And that way I can overcome attachment. And remember constantly that all these pleasures, these are not objects. These attachments do not give me happiness. They bring pleasure. So remember that these are all temporary and they cannot give me permanent happiness. The goal in my life is permanent happiness, which is moksha. However, if all of us are not convinced about moksha, we can find a higher ideal, higher goal that we can surrender to. And that higher goal or higher ideal will bring joy into my life, and it will make me give up this constant attraction which comes from giving attention to my attachments, which are my habits. So these are a few ways in which we can overcome attachments and bring more and more joy, happiness into our lives. So now he's getting us to think. In verse number 8, he's giving us a thinking process as well. Karte kanta kaste putra, samsaro yamativa vichitra. Who is here? Kanta means wife, but it really means who is my spouse? Who is putra? Though it means son, my offspring. This world is indeed, vichitra can mean wonderful, is indeed wonderful or strange. Who, kasya tvam, who are you? From where have you come? Kuta ayata. From where have you come? Tattvam chintaya tadiha bhrata. Think of that very essence of who you are and the urgency, tad iha, right now. And, so far he was addressing us as fools. The fool was a term of endearment, as I had said, that, when a near one, a dear one is not doing the right thing, we say, don't be such a fool. That in a term of endearment, he addressed us as fool. Now here he is addressing us as a brother. Why is he addressing us as a brother? So you see, we are all descendants. If we look at us in the terms, our identity today is that of this physical body, this mind and intellect. If that is the identity we have all come from the same source. So if we have all come from the same source, then we are all So in the Abrahamic religion, we are, everybody is a descendant of Adam and Eve. But in the Sanatan tradition, we are all descendants of Manu and Satrupal. So Manu means the one, that is the word that is the root from which Manushya comes. The one who uses their mind and intellect is Manushya. What do we call animals? Pashu. Pashyati iti pashu. Those who act on the instincts and on their senses. Pashya means to see. Those who act only by sight without thinking, based on instincts, based on sense organs, they are animals. Those who use their mind and intellect are Manushya. So he's asking us to become humans. Use your mind and intellect to know who you are. Fundamental question, who is this? The dearest to us, of course, is our spouse. So he says, ask this question, who is this spouse of mine? When I ask this question, for most of us, the answer will be son of so-and-so, daughter of so-and-so, sibling of so-and-so, coming from such a place. Is that who my spouse is? And then the next, who is my offspring? Is there a doubt about who is my offspring? We are the parents. So why is he? And then he's asking you to inquire about who you yourself are. If we start thinking of any individual, who that person is, then of course, who is that person? The son of such and such person, we name the parents. But and then, their education, that's all we think of. But that's not who they are. Because, yes, the person, is a offspring because of the seed of the father and the egg of the mother. But did the seed of the father and the egg of the mother actually make that person who he or she is? Remember that if that seed did not have life in it, if that egg did not have life in it, this person would not be there. Same with, we can trace 4 generations. And that egg, if they had life, that spark of life in them, they would not have been there. So in fact, that spark of life has been expressing through the seed and through the egg. It is who I think of as my mother, who I think of as my offspring, who I think of as myself right now, or any one of you. I'm looking at you in your physical form, in your makeup of your mind and intellect and your entire personality. But without that divine life spark, you would not be there. So in fact, each one of us are that divine life spark. That is our true identity. This body is made up of the, five elements, five great elements: earth, fire, water, space. What did I say about earth, fire, water, and air? So these are the five great elements that we are made of. Now, but then you say, okay, what about the mind and intellect? It is a known, of course, Vedanta has talked about it thousands of years ago, that mind and intellect is nothing but subtle matter. Today, we have also come to accept in a certain way. Why do we not give sugar to a child? We say the child will get excited. What that is it a mental connection, that excitement in the child? The intoxication and the inebriation that comes from consuming alcohol. In a, not just physical disorientation, but even the inability to discern correctly. Where does that come from? That is at the level of the mind. There is a very, very close relationship between food that we take and how our mental state is. So that clearly shows us that this mind and intellect is subtle matter, in fact. So if this body is gross matter and the mind and intellect is subtle matter, which I am able to control, I am able to direct, depending on how how much distance I create between myself as body, mind, and intellect and my true identity. That is where all people have certain mental powers that others do not have. Some are more disciplined than others are. Some are more thinking than others are, more sharp. It is only because they are using their instruments correctly. We call it a gift. Yes, instruments are different. Also, they are able to use it correctly because they have created that distance. Objectivity comes. So here, so lovingly, he is saying, "Oh, my dear brother." Now there is another version that instead of bhrata uses bhranta, deluded one. Why deluded? We are deluded that we take this to be our identity, the body, mind, and intellect. He's saying that is not your true identity. Wake up to your true identity. Realize that who this, my dear wife is, who my offspring is, who everyone I encounter, in fact, is that divine entity. It is that divine entity expressing and manifesting through this equipment of body, mind, and intellect. Let me make that connection with at a deeper level. That was the verse number 7. Yavat pavano. No, verse number 6. Yavat pavano. As long as there is life in the body, till then. So have I made a connection purely at the superficial level, or have I made a connection at a deeper level? Let us make that connection at a deeper level. So that completes verse number 8. Verse number 9 will actually, beautiful verse, and one of the most important verse that a lot of us know in India, particularly, Satsangatve Nisangatvam, Sangatve Nirmohatvam. Nishchalatatvam. Nishchala is the ladder by which we can climb up to the state of liberation in life. You call it liberation, call it awakening, call it enlightenment, call it moksha, becoming free. What is becoming free? The ability to exercise our free will freely. The greatest gift that the divine has given humans is free will, and to exercise it not out of slavery, but freely. So that will conclude today's class. If anybody has any questions, comments, anything to add or take away. If there are no questions, we will say our concluding prayers and then meet so that we can talk. And I don't know how much time is left. About 5 minutes, Bhuvnesh?
We have about 8 minutes.
8 minutes? Yeah. So we'll say our concluding prayers and then we can meet. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति